Look, your website might look great to you, but to ChatGPT and Google's new AI search, it's a mess. As I discussed in my last video, the reality is AI models don't care about your pretty design. They care about data structure and trust signals. If your on-page strategy is still built on 2019 keyword stuffing, you aren't just ranking lower, you're being filtered out of the conversation entirely. Today, I'm walking through the second part of our 2026 roadmap, on-page SEO for the AI era. I'm going through the exact 100-slide framework I use to ensure our clients aren't just on Google, but are the #1 recommendation when a customer asks an AI for help. If you want a predictable flow of leads while your competitors are wondering why their phones stopped ringing, this is the move. Let's fix your site. So, brief introduction if you don't already know me and you haven't seen the video prior. My name is Matthew Johnson. I'm the co-founder of AMPS AI, and I've created and scaled my own marketing agency to multiple six figures, and then proceeded to serve as a CMO of an Amazon agency where we work with some of the largest names in the e-commerce industry, such as Ridge Wallet, which is the largest wallet brand in the entire world, Hexclad, which is Gordon Ramsay's cookware brand, BK Beauty, who debuted on the Inc. 5000 last year in 2025, the Woobles, who were featured on Shark Tank, Walkies, who was featured on the Today Show in the US, Lonely Planet, which is one of the biggest travel guides and travel blogs in the world, Obvi, etc. During my tenure, the company's client base tripled from 15 to 45 active clients, which doesn't include one-off deals and opportunities generated outside of the business. I now work with my partner, Justin, with helping SaaS, e-commerce, and local businesses to, at a minimum, 3x their traffic, and as a result, book in anywhere between 30 to 60 new appointments every single month through AI search. We keep those phones ringing and your business intact. So, moving on here. So, we make sure your business shows up where buyers are already searching. So leads are consistent, predictable, and compounding, not fragile or ad dependent. If you want your business to be able to benefit from some of these aspects of AI search, we can do this for you at amps.ai, link in the description. By the way, if you want to read this document on your own time and maybe you don't want to watch this entire video, feel free to also get that document linked in the description below. Also, I have multiple other trainings that you can check out. This is just one of 7. We went over #1 prior, the intro to SEO document. I have a little typographical error there. So it's not actually this document. Today we're going over on-page SEO. In the previous one, I did the introduction to SEO for beginners, intermediate, and advanced. So what will you learn from this guide? In this guide, you'll learn how to make your website visible and attractive to both Google and the new generation of AI-powered search engines like ChatGPT and Perplexity. We're going to start by explaining in simple terms how search engines and large language models, otherwise known as LLMs, actually work, so you'll understand what matters most for ranking and citations. You'll discover how to write titles, descriptions, and content that not only help you rank higher in Google, but also make it easy for AI tools to find and recommend your site. We'll show you how to structure your pages with clear headers, internal links, and optimized images, and how to use Schema Markup and FAQ sections to stand out in search results. You'll also learn how to format your content for AI using question-based headers, key takeaways, and entity-rich sentences, so your expertise is recognized and cited. Finally, you'll get practical checklists and a step-by-step action plan to help you audit your site, fix common issues, and build your brand's authority online. By the end, you'll have the confidence and tools to grow your traffic from both traditional search and the latest AI platforms. In every single slide, or almost every single slide of this guide, we also have accompanying images for you visual learners. They are meant to also accentuate, which is, in other words, highlight certain aspects or the most important aspects of what I'm trying to convey. If at any point there are things that you may already know, feel free to skip ahead, but I don't recommend it because this is something that beginners can learn from, intermediates and advanced people can learn from. If you haven't already watched the previous video, I'd also highly recommend checking that out. Now, who is this guide for? So this is a guide that's perfect for business owners who want more customers from search. It works for agency owners, e-commerce brands, SaaS companies, local businesses, everyone. Even if you've never done SEO before, you'll understand everything here. You should be able to optimize any web page for Google search, make your content show up in ChatGPT and other AI tools, and get more traffic without paying for ads. And you should also understand exactly what to do. No guessing. You don't need to be technical. You don't need coding skills. Just follow the steps I'm going to outline in this guide. Now, the search world has changed. People used to only use Google to find information. Some people used Yahoo, some people used Bing. But now millions ask LLMs like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, Grok, etc. for answers instead. So ChatGPT has over 200 million weekly users. 40% of young people now use AI instead of Google, and Perplexity answers over 500 million queries per month. Most businesses only optimize for Google. They're missing half, if not more, than their potential customers today. Your competitors probably aren't doing this yet, and they probably aren't even fortunate enough to have found me and this video. You're the fortunate one. You have a huge opportunity right now. So imagine you own a plumbing business. Maybe a plumber is watching this right now. Someone searches emergency plumber near me on Google. If you're not optimized, they don't find you. They call your competitor. Now someone asks ChatGPT, I have a burst pipe in Dallas. Who should I call? If ChatGPT doesn't know about you, it recommends someone else. This happens every single day. People search for what you offer and they can't find you because you're invisible to both Google and AI. So it's essential you optimize for both. This guide shows you exactly how. So part 1 is understanding search engines and LLMs. So how does Google actually work? The 3 things Google does is step 1, it crawls. Google sends robots, called bots for short, to visit your website. These bots read every page like a person would. They follow links from page to page constantly. 2, indexing. After reading your pages, Google saves them in a giant database or a repository. Think of it like a library catalog. Google remembers what each page is about. And then you have step 3, which is ranking. When someone searches, Google looks through its database. It picks the best pages for that search. It shows them in order from best to worst. If Google can't crawl your site, you are invisible, essentially. So what does Google look for? Google wants to show the best results. It looks for specific signals on your page to determine if you are that best result. So does your page fully answer the question? Is the information accurate and helpful? Is it written clearly and easy to read? It looks for trust signals. Do other websites link to you? Is your information up to date? Do you cite your sources? So, do other websites link to you? Is your information up to date? Do you cite your sources? And then lastly, it uses user experience signals. Does your page load fast? Does it work on mobile phones? Can people easily find what they need? We'll show you how to optimize for all of these. So LLM stands for Large Language Model. That's a fancy term for AI tools like ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity. Think of them as super smart assistants that answer questions. And how do they differ from Google? Google shows you a list of websites to click. LLMs give you direct answers in a conversation. Google ranks pages 1 to 10, while LLMs cite sources they used. The big LLMs you need to know are ChatGPT, which is the most popular, Perplexity, which focuses primarily on search, with sources, Claude, Anthropic, which is very accurate and is incredible for copywriting capabilities, Gemini, which is directly affiliated with Google, and Grok, which of course is affiliated with Twitter. So how do LLMs find information? LLMs work differently than Google. Understanding this helps you optimize for them. And now there are 3 ways that LLMs get information. Training data, which they learn from billions of web pages, and this data is usually a few months old. They have live search, which some LLMs search the internet in real time. ChatGPT uses Bing search, and Perplexity searches Google. Hybrid approach. Most LLMs now use both methods. They check their training data first, and if they need current info, they search the web. Your content needs to be findable through search and memorable enough to be in their training data. If you aren't optimizing for this, you'll never rank in LLM search. Now, think of a token as a small chunk of text. A token might be a word or part of a word. LLMs can only process a certain number of tokens at once. And this matters because LLMs prioritize the most important information. They focus on well-structured content, and they skip over fluff and filler. And their clear and organized content always wins. So put your most important information at the top, use clear structure, make every word count, and we'll show you exactly how to do this, of course. So the key difference is I've made a neat little table here, but you need different strategies for each. That should be your biggest takeaway. Many tactics work for both, and the goal is for you to combine both strategies into one so that you can achieve the results for 2 in 1. This guide shows you exactly how to do that through the overlap and the differences available to both. So why do you need both strategies? So optimizing for only Google is like fishing with one hook. Optimizing for both is like fishing with multiple hooks with bait. You catch way more fish. So let's use an example. A plumbing company in Dallas optimized for both Google traffic and ChatGPT or LLM traffic. They saw an increase of 45% of traffic in 3 months. They have been mentioned in 60% or more of relevant queries on the topic. They've had a total leads increase of 78%, and they spent a subtotal of $0 in ad spend. Now, why do both matter? Different people use different tools. We saw earlier in the statistics provided that young people tend to, over 200 million people are using ChatGPT on a daily basis for queries, a majority of them being young people, while older folk would be more inclined to use Google as an example. So if you're not optimizing for both, you're alienating an entire audience, which of course is less money, it's less business for you. LLMs often also pull from top Google results. So you are incentivized to do both really well. Being visible everywhere builds trust, and you future-proof your business in the event that AI takes over completely, which it's seeming more and more likely to, at least in the online sphere. The businesses winning right now do both. Those are our clients. Your competitors probably aren't. Now let's talk about on-page SEO for Google finally, which of course is the topic of this video. On-page SEO means optimizing the content and code on your actual web pages. You control 100% of this, and you don't need anyone else's permission. Now, we spoke briefly about on-page SEO in the last video, so if you haven't watched that yet, feel free to pause this video and go back to learn a bit more about the fundamentals and how everything works together. But if not, we're going to go through it in depth in this one anyway. So there are 3 types of SEO. There are on-page SEO, which is what we're teaching in this guide. Off-page SEO, which is getting other sites to link to you. So you can think of these as also as external links and backlinks. And then you have technical SEO, which is your site's code and structure. This guide focuses on-page SEO because it's the most important and you can do it yourself today. On-page SEO includes page titles and descriptions, content and how it's written, images and videos, and page structure. Now, title tags. These are your first impression. Your title tag is what shows up in Google search results. It's that blue clickable link that people see. And this is your first impression. You want to keep it under 60 characters or Google cuts it off. You want to put your main keyword at the beginning, and you have to make it interesting so people actually want to click. Include your brand name at the end and make each page's title unique. So a bad example of a title tag would look like Home Smith Plumbing Plumber, while a good example would be Emergency Plumber Dallas, 24/7 service, Smith Plumbing. So keyword first, it shows a benefit, and it includes your brand. This is an example of a good title tag. Now here's a formula, a very simple one that you can use for any page. I've also provided a couple real-life examples of how exactly these would look. So if any particular niche is watching this right now, whether you're a plumber, lawyer, restaurant, or you're in e-com, you can take this formula immediately, do it for your business, and already start to see an improvement where that's concerned. Which is why OnPage SEO is one of the more popular forms of SEO, because of how easily you can make changes and how quickly you can start seeing the results of those changes. But notice a pattern here. The keyword is always first, the benefit is second, and the brand is last. Because people read from left to right unless you're in certain parts of Asia, where they read from right to left, the inverse. They see the most important information first. So write some title tags for your top 5 pages right now using this formula, and you'll start seeing the results of it immediately. Very easy formula. Now, the meta description is what appears under your title in Google results. Google doesn't use it for ranking, but it affects whether people click on the link or not. And here we provided a bit of some rules for how you should use the meta description. Now, let's see what a bad one looks like versus a good one. A bad meta description is Smith Plumbing is a plumbing company. We do plumbing. Call us for plumbing services. Keywords are there, but it doesn't really tell you what people will get from what's the benefit of calling you as opposed to a competitor. There's no call to action, so there's nothing really inviting them to click on the link. And it's not very unique for every page, right? So a good example would be need a plumber fast. We fix burst pipes, clogged drains, and water heaters in Dallas. Available 24/7. Call now. Just by doing this, you can even receive calls from the Google page without even them having to click onto your website. So this works because it's a very specific service or list of services, location, availability, and phone number. All in all, an optimized meta tag description. Here's a formula as well as provided in the last couple slides for the title tag, right? This time it's for the meta description. What you'll notice is that on every slide or every other slide, we'll not only define what exactly these terms are, but we'll give you an actionable. So you can even pause the video and make the updates right away and then just come back to the video. It's very simple to do it like that. So here are a couple real life examples so you have an idea of what an optimized meta description looks like. And then just follow the pattern. Start with what you do, explain the benefit, and then end with clear next steps. The clear next steps, whether that be calling, booking a reservation, or simply, sharing it with a friend. Those are all examples of a call to action and what an optimized meta description looks like. Now, here's another thing that many people are familiar with in SEO, which are the header tags, which is a method of organizing your content. Now, headers, you have H1, H2, H3, which all refer to headers. You can organize your content like an outline. They help readers scan your page. They help Google understand your structure. There's a hierarchy with things, of course, with 1 being at the very top and anywhere from H4 to H6 being at the very bottom of that, let's say, pyramid, right? H1 is your main title page, your main page title, which you can only have one of per page. H2 is a major section, H3 is a subsection, and then H4 to H6 are further subsections of the prior headings. So think of it like a book. H1 is the book title, which is of course the biggest text. H2 is the chapter title, and then H3 is a section title within those chapters. Never skip levels, right? You only should have one H1 per page. Use headers in order and make them descriptive. I've also provided, of course, a diagram of what that would look like. So you can see H1 with the biggest title here, H2 is a major section, and H3 is a section title, same thing from H4 to H6. Never have more than one H1. So how do you write effective headers? Good headers tell people what's coming next. They include keywords naturally, and they make your content scannable. So an example of a page structure would be H1, which we only have one of, being emergency plumbing services in Dallas. H2 being common plumbing emergencies that we fix. And then under those common plumbing emergencies would be headers 3 to 6. So they're essentially subsections of H2 and so on and so forth. Each header should clearly describe what you're going to find in that section. The keywords appear naturally, right? The structure makes sense. Using headers like introduction, more information, or click here do nothing. They serve no purpose and you shouldn't do them. So next up, we're talking about URL structure basics. Your URL is your page's address on the internet. A good URL is short, descriptive, and includes your keywords. So some best practices: keep it short and simple. Use hyphens between words, not underscores. Include your main keyword. Use lowercase letters only and avoid numbers and random characters. So an optimized URL would look like, let's say, amps.ai or .com. I mean, for us, it's AI, but you get the point. Slash, let's say, on-page SEO. In this case, let's say bestplumber.com / emergency / plumber Dallas. Right? So this is how you have very clean URLs, which makes it very easy for your page to not only crawl or Google to crawl and scan, but also for people to find you. Right? Very important stuff. So let's talk a bit more now about content quality fundamentals, which will make up a bulk of your SEO strategy. Google wants to show helpful, accurate content. And here's what that means. So they want to know if you're experienced, if you are actually an expert in this area, if you have authority, and if you are trustworthy. So in order to practically implement all 4 of these principles, you want to write from real experience, include specific details and examples. So let's say that you're a plumber. You need to provide specific details on how you would replace a washer, for example, which would prevent a leak or stop a leak in a particular prospect's or client's house, right? You need to cite your sources. Update in much like I've done in this, right? Update information regularly so that you don't have any outdated pages or outdated strategies. You need to show your credentials when relevant, and you need to include author bios and get reviews and testimonials. A plumber writing about fixing burst pipes should include photos from actual jobs and specific steps. So step by step, how exactly they were able to achieve that result for their client. So keywords are the words people type into Google. You need to include them on your page, but you need to do it naturally. Right? You shouldn't just stuff them in there just for stuffing's sake, for lack of a better term. There are 5 critical places for keywords. The aforementioned title tag, the first 100 words of your content, at least one H2 header, image alt text, and the URL. So some of these you've already spoken of, so you're familiar with them. For the rest, we'll be talking about them in the following guide, right? Aim for about 1 to 2% of your total words to encompass of your keyword. If you have 1,000 words, use your main keyword 10 to 20 times naturally. You can also use AI's help in doing this, So while you're writing, let's say you've come up with 1,000 words, you can put that into AI and ask it to, if you have already accrued your keywords, which of course I have a guide on keyword strategy, which I'll go over in subsequent videos. So stay tuned, make sure to subscribe if you haven't. And you could also just get the document now by clicking the link in the description below. But as I was saying, you can just drop that, let's say 1,000-word blog post into Google, or not Google, but an LLM like ChatGPT or Claude. And then you can ask it to naturally insert your keywords to make it about 1 to 2% of that 1,000 words, and to keep the overall writing or the overall structure of your written piece. It's much easier nowadays. Use variations as well. Don't repeat the exact same phrase. Your main phrase, which is emergency plumber Dallas, a variation could be Dallas emergency plumbing or urgent plumber in Dallas. Use those synonyms. I know you have them, right? You can also use SERP for SEO to see optimal keyword density for your topic. Some free game there. Now, for content length and depth, there's no magic number. The right length is as long as it takes to fully answer the question. And this is going to become more relevant, especially with the advent of AI and AI search. So AI really only cares about how much details you provide in answering a question that a prospect may have. So some general guidelines to keep. For the homepage, keep it to about 500 to 800 words. Service pages can go up to 1,500. Blog posts can go from 1,500 to about 2,500. And then for ultimate guides, you want to do 3,000 words plus. So for example, I'd call this an ultimate guide, and we're well over, of course, 3,000 words. But length alone doesn't matter. A 500 word page that perfectly answers a question beats a 3,000 word page full of fluff. Again, you can use SERP for SEO to analyze competitors and see the average word count of top ranking pages. Aim to match or exceed by 10 to 20%. And focus on depth. Answer the main question completely, address related questions before they come up, and provide specific examples. This is how you take full advantage of content. Now, you need to write for readability. I think this is also a masterclass in readability, right? Because you want to keep sentences short. Keep it to about a 5th grade reading level. The average American, and we're going to use, of course, Americans as a benchmark, can only read up to a 5th grade reading level. So if you write over that, let's say you try to write at a 10th or 11th grade, or maybe even university grade, you're alienating potentially a huge aspect of your audience. So even if your information is great, people won't read it if it's hard to understand. Google knows this and prefers readable content. Right? So here's just some tips. Again, you can feed all of this to AI in reading your content. You can literally just take this entire document, feed it into AI, and you can start writing incredible content and making all of these fixes yourself. Right? But if you don't want to, our link is in the description. You can always just have us do it. Now, here's an example of being hard to read. And it's funny because I actually used a couple of these words earlier, but I didn't write them. Now, the implementation of the aforementioned plumbing solution will be executed by our certified technicians. Difficult. An easier one would be our licensed plumbers will fix your problem. I should probably take my own advice. Now, here's some content formatting tips for scannability. Because most people don't read every word, they just scan. So make your content scannable. Use short paragraphs. You've seen this in this guide so far. Add bullet points. We're looking at bullet points. Bold important phrases, much like the advice given here. Add some subheadings. Break up longer sections. So for example, this is part 2, but part 2 is broken down into 5 to maybe 7 slides. Include images. Images. Use numbered lists. Similar to adding bullet points. Again, 1 to 6 here. So use this as a checklist for when you're creating your content. It will eventually become a habit and your writing ability will 10x. Just remember that nobody likes to read essays. I wonder why. So let's now talk about some internal linking strategy. Internal links are links from one page on your site to another page on your site, and they help in 3 ways. This helps Google crawl and find all your pages. It distributes authority from strong pages to other pages, and it keeps visitors engaged with related content. Now, the best practice would be to link to relevant pages and not just indiscriminately, randomly. Use descriptive anchor text. Include about 3 to 5 internal links per page to keep people in your ecosystem. And link deep, not just to home pages. Make links natural in your content as well. Don't just throw them in there for throwing them sake, much like keywords. So instead of click here for more information, learn more about emergency plumbing services in Dallas would be more optimized. Now, here's external linking to authority sites. So we'll touch on this a bit here. I have a full guide on this, but many people think linking to other sites will hurt their SEO, and they couldn't be any more incorrect. Linking to quality sources actually helps because it shows Google that you've done research. It adds credibility to your content. It provides value to readers, and it builds relationships with other sites. Here are a couple of rules that you should follow when doing external linking, and here are a couple of good sites to link to. .gov/ or .edu sites especially are ones that you should take into account. So, for example, a plumbing article about water safety could link to EPA.gov, right? This is an example. Now, let's talk about image optimization, because this might be a bit into technical SEO, which we touched on very briefly, but if you know the basics, that's from the last video, then you'll understand why image optimization is important. Because if your page loads slower, then this affects how Google ranks you on their first page, or whether they rank you at all. Images make your content better, but they need optimization or they hurt your page speed and SEO. And there are 3 critical image optimizations that you can make. You can compress file sizes so that they're under 200 kilobytes, which aids in loading pages faster. You can optimize for file name and use more descriptive names with keywords, and alt text, which describes the image for people who can't see it, which you can include keywords naturally. So a couple ideal image formats, make sure to keep them in JPEG, PNG for graphics with transparency, and WebP for modern format. Smaller files would be the best option. Now for alt text, this describes images, so for people who can't see them. So screen readers use it for blind users, and Google uses it to understand images. So describe what's in the image, keep it under about 125 characters, include keywords naturally, just don't stuff them, and don't start with image off or picture off. Skip alt text for decorative images, right? So a good example would be licensed plumber repairing leaking pipe under the kitchen sink. Another good example would be Smith Plumbing Dallas logo, if it was in the context of logo, right? So just some best practices and examples for you here. So now let's talk about a very important topic in all of SEO, which is schema markup. This is code that you add to your pages. It helps search engines understand your content better, and it can get you special features in search results. So as an example, search for plumber near me, and you'll see some results with star ratings, phone numbers, and business hours. That's schema markup in action. Those businesses get more clicks because their results stand out. You don't need to be technical. We'll show you easy ways to add schema. So if you serve customers in specific locations, you need local business schema. This tells Google exactly what you do and where. So here are a couple of things to include. The NAP, which you would already know from the previous video. It's a business name, address, and phone number, right? Following that, you need the business hours, its service areas, the type of business, the price range, and which methods you can use to pay. Now, I've provided very many ways of how you'd be able to add it, depending on what your web provider is. We personally recommend either WordPress or Webflow to host your websites on because they're optimal for SEO. But in the event that you have something different, then here are a couple options that you can use. Again, if you need this to be done for you, we can also do that, right? Link in the description. Now, FAQ Schema lets you add question and answer sections that show up in Google. This gives you more visibility and more clicks. So when to use FAQ Schema? So service pages and product pages with customer questions, blog posts answering very specific questions, long form, and any page where you answer questions. Your results show up with expandable questions underneath, and people can see answers without clicking, but many people still click to learn more. Here's also a guide on how you should be able to add it. You should include about 3 to 8 questions per page. Answer them completely using natural language. Now here's some product schema, or here's an example of product schema for e-commerce. Because if you sell products online, product schema is critical. It shows prices, availability, and ratings in search results. Product schema includes these things, and the benefits of them would be products showing up in Google Shopping, rich snippets in regular search, higher click-through rates, and better visibility. Most e-commerce platforms, those being Shopify, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, add product schema automatically. Check your platform's documentation. And if it's not automatic, you can use a plugin or just hire a developer to add it for you. And here's a few examples. Now let's talk about OnPage SEO for LLMs, which is maybe what most of you are here for. Now, the LLM optimization mindset. Optimizing for LLMs requires a different approach than Google. You're not trying to rank number 1, you're trying to get cited as a source. So there are a couple of mindset shifts that you need to have. LLMs care more about understanding your full meaning than matching exact keywords. There's no position number 1. You either get mentioned or you don't, and that's typically between 3 to 5 places, unless they ask for an expanded search. LLMs want clear, direct answers, not pages to browse. And backlinks matter less. Brand mentions across the web matter way more. So if you create genuinely helpful content, LLMs will find and cite you regardless. Keep that in mind. So how do they decide what to cite? LLMs look for specific signals when deciding which sources to cite. Now, authority signals, which I've listed here, content quality signals, and structure signals. LLMs favor recognized brands with comprehensive, well-structured content. So if you need to stop this and see which signals exactly that they look for, feel free to pause this and check. But you need to be optimizing for all of these if you want to rank in LLMs based off of what we've seen for ourselves and for clients. So we talked a bit before about content quality. Now I'm going to give you a formula that I follow myself and that I use to create documents as big and as informative as these. So every piece of content you create should pass the VAR test. This ensures LLMs will find it valuable enough to cite. So you should ask yourself, would someone pay $50 for this information? If not, it's not good enough. Free doesn't mean low quality. Actionable. So you should include specific steps people can implement within 24 hours. Theory is nice, action steps are better. Give people quick wins, much like what I've been giving you so far. And lastly, you should make it readable. Make it easy to scan and understand. Use short paragraphs, add bullet points, include examples, and write at a 5th grade level. If your content passes all 3 tests, LLMs will recognize its value and cite it accordingly. Here's a bit of a checklist that you can follow as well. See, I'm doing what I say. So content depth once again beats length. LLMs don't care if your article is 500 or 5,000 words. They care if you fully answer the question, as I stated prior. Here's what I mean by comprehensive. Follow these and you should be on the right track. So an example of what a comprehensive content would look like, or an article would look like. To fix a leaky faucet, first turn off the water supply under the sink. You'll need a wrench, replacement washer, and plumber's tape. Here's a step-by-step process. We detail those steps. We make a list of common mistakes, and then when to call a pro in terms of scenarios. It costs anywhere between $5 to $20 to do it yourself and $100 to $200 for a professional to do it. Incredibly comprehensive, and it checks every single box that the person would have before they decide to hire someone. You are essentially doing all the research for them, putting it in one place and making it easy for them to make a decision. LLMs love that. So here's some key takeaways. Remember that LLMs have token limits. They might not read your entire page, so put your key information at the very top. So create a key takeaway section, much like this. Place this right after your introduction, before your main content. This section should summarize your most important points. And what you should include, there's a couple examples. Sure, you have 3 to 7 main points, which should be direct and clear. Specific information and actionable insights. Plumbers are getting a lot of love today. So, example for a plumbing article. Burst pipes require immediate action within 5 minutes. Turn off main water valve first. Call emergency plumber while containing water damage, etc., etc. So, we're going to talk a bit more about converting these key takeaways to Q&A format. So, LLMs are trained on conversational data. They understand questions and answers better than statements. Transform your key takeaways into Q&A format. Instead of statements, burst pipes require immediate action within 5 minutes. Use questions and answers. So how quickly do I need to act when a pipe bursts? You have about 5 minutes before serious water damage occurs. Act immediately would be better. Right? Create a Q&A section at the top of every important page and include 5 to 7 questions that cover your main points. Now, once you have Q&A sections, add FAQ schema. This helps both Google and LLMs understand your content structure. Now, I've also provided the benefits and how you should actually be able to add FAQ schema for your particular case. But this just helps Google, this helps you show up in Google search results. It's easier for LLMs to parse, which basically means to get information. It increases visibility and it improves click-through rates. Now, the best practice would be about 5 to 7 questions per section. You want to keep your answers concise. It's about 2 to 3 sentences and use natural language. Answer completely. Now, LLMs respond better to question-based headers. Remember, H1, H2, H3, and then H4 to H6. These should match how people actually search and answer questions. So you have your traditional approach, your question-based approach. And why questions work better is because it matches natural language queries. It directly addresses user intent. It's easier for LLMs to understand, and it's more engaging for readers. Now, you should use headers, or you should use questions, It's not every header needs to be a question. You should use them for your main H2s, and your H3s can be statements. Right? So main H2s, which header 2s, and then your main H3s, which are subsections of your header 2s. Now, after every H2 header, your first sentence should directly answer the question. Make it about 20 to 40 words and make it clear and specific. The pattern, H2 is a question. First sentence should be a direct answer to that question with key details, and the following paragraphs should elaborate and provide examples for that question or for that after statement. So, how much does emergency plumbing cost in Dallas? The first sentence should look like, emergency plumbing services in Dallas typically cost $150 to about $400 for common repairs like burst pipes, clogged drains, and water heater issues, with prices varying based on severity and time of day. Now, LLMs can extract the answer quickly using this method. Readers get immediate value, which they're happy with, of course, and which would make them more likely to work with you. And it works for both Google featured snippets, and it respects the token limit constraint, which we mentioned prior. Now, let's talk about entities. Entities are specific people, places, things, or concepts. LLMs understand entities better than keywords. So, people, Elon Musk or Dr. Smith. Places, Dallas, Texas or Main Street. Things, iPhone 15 versus a Toyota Camry. Concepts, emergency plumbing, burst pipe repairs. Or brands, Smith Plumbing, Google. So, keyword, right? Keyword thinking would be plumber appears 15 times, while entity thinking would be Smith Plumbing, Dallas, burst pipe, water heater, emergency service. LLMs understand relationships between entities. They know Smith Plumbing is a business in Dallas that fixes burst pipes, and they make the correlation in the model itself. So don't just stuff entity names everywhere. It's the same advice as with keywords, right? You should include them naturally where they add context and clarity. So a basic sentence would be optimized for voice search to help users find content through spoken queries. While entity-rich sentences would sound like optimizing for voice search allows AI assistants like Alexa, Siri, and Google Assistant to match user questions with your content, helping people find answers through spoken queries. Now, what changed? We added specific AI assistants, we grouped them under AI assistants, and we connected them to the main concept, voice search. So basic, another example of basic sentences, we offer plumbing services. While entity rich, Smith Plumbing offers emergency plumbing services in Dallas, including burst pipe repair, water heater installation, and drain cleaning for residential and commercial properties. A beautiful diagram here. So don't add entities everywhere. Focus on key locations where they provide the most value. Priority locations for entities would be first paragraph, the first sentence after H2s, the key takeaway sections, the FAQ answers, or product/service descriptions. Don't overdo it though. If you mention Dallas in every sentence, it sounds unnatural and maybe like AI wrote it. Use entities where they add clarity and value. A good example would be Smith Plumbing serves Dallas, Plano, and Fort Worth with 24/7 emergency services. While too many would be Smith Plumbing in Dallas, Texas serves Dallas residents and Dallas businesses in Dallas County. Boy, I don't even want to go to Dallas anymore. So most websites put FAQs at the bottom. That's fine, but you can do better. Add FAQ sections throughout your content. So you have a main FAQ section. You have section-specific FAQs. And you have common questions about, let's, for example, say the H2 is emergency plumbing services, which is a content about emergency services. Common questions about emergency plumbing would be, how fast can you respond to emergencies? Do you charge extra for after-hour service? Another H2 could be our service areas. And a service area question could be, do you serve my neighborhood? This is how you use multiple FAQ section strategy. So it is, let's say, littered throughout the entire post, blog post, article, whatever it is. Now you can also add schema to multiple FAQ blocks. Google and LLMs support multiple FAQ schema blocks on the same page, which is incredibly powerful. Here's how to implement it for your particular site. And for some best practices, make sure that each FAQ block is focused on one topic. Don't duplicate questions across blocks. 2 to 4 questions per block is ideal, and place blocks near relevant content. For example, a plumbing page might have emergency services FAQ, pricing FAQ, service area FAQ, and general FAQ at the bottom. So a table of contents does more than help readers navigate. It shows LLMs your content structure. This is a benefit to them because they can quickly understand your page layout. I like when I'm talking about them like they're people, right? It's scary. Readers can jump to relevant sections themselves. It shows that you have comprehensive content. It improves user experience and it increases time on page. Now, what should you include? All your H2 headers at a minimum, H3 headers if you have many sections, jump links that scroll to each section, and you should place it near the top of your page. Here's how you add some table of contents if you use WordPress versus, here's another example, if you use just manual, right? Just your regular website if you want to do it. So LLMs process text differently than humans. They look for patterns and structure. So help them by formatting clearly. Remember the formatting rules that we mentioned prior? Make sure you have short paragraphs, bullet points, numbered lists, emboldened keywords or terms. Make sure you use tables like table of contents, and make sure you have a clear structure. Bonus points also if you have images throughout the document to make breaks and prevent reading fatigue, right? So a good example of this would be a clear topic sentence, supporting details in short paragraphs, and key points in bullets. Notice, for example, like this is how this entire document is structured. So I'm practicing what I'm preaching here. And I'm also providing you an example of what not to do and what is better, what you should be doing. You can also use tables for comparisons. When you need to compare options, show pricing, display specifications, or do an us versus them, which is our competitors versus us, what makes us better, LLMs can extract this type of table data very easily. So you should do it when comparing products or services, like the example I just gave, us versus them, showing pricing tiers, especially if you're running SaaS, listing features and specifications, displaying before/after data, and showing statistics. Here are a couple best practices for tables, an example of a table that's following these best practices. And why this works is that LLMs can easily extract, for example, emergency service costs $200 to $400 with 30-minute response time from this table. They don't have to do a lot of parsing, which also saves the token limit. So we're just tying everything together now. Now you understand how all of this works, right? Or at least we're getting there. Now you can also use lists for processes and steps, much like I do here, to break things down and make it simpler for LLMs to parse this data. So when explaining how to do something, use some lists, use some bullet points. Let AI understand how sequential information. They understand it. We should use things that they understand in order for us to cite them more accurately. So here's an example of when to use numbered list. Of course, chronological events, step-by-step processes, ranked items versus bullet points. You want to list features or benefits, non-sequential items, options or choices, related concepts. Ooh, I learned something there as well, right? It's been a while since I wrote this, right? So, for example, how to fix a leaky faucet. This is step by step, hence we use a numbered list, right? So LLMs can extract step 1 is to turn off the water supply, and it can cite your content accurately. This is all for the purpose of AI, but this will also translate into every other form of writing for you. So you become better overall. Statistics and data points. Apart from me, AI probably loves specific data the most. Because when you include statistics and format them clearly, LLMs are able to parse that information much easier. They can determine whether you're an authority or an expert based on how easily you can cite this information. And of course, it brings more credibility to you and your brand. So for statistics, use numerals and not words. So 72% is much sexier than, written 72%, right? That's 72, much more attractive. Ensure that it includes context as well. 72% of homeowners experienced plumbing issues in 2024 versus, this is bad, but 72% experienced issues. Be more specific, include context. Remember to always cite your sources. If there's one thing we learned while essay writing, all of us have done it at one point to some extent. You know that citing sources gives you extra marks. It's the same thing with LLMs. Each statistic should make sense on its own because LLMs might extract just that sentence, right? Here's an example of that. You can read that. And then here's my pretty diagram, right? So speakable schema is probably a new form of schema. Most of you might just be hearing about it, but it marks content that's good for voice assistants to read aloud, which also helps with voice search and LLM citation. This is essentially code that tells voice assistants like Alexa, Siri, or Google Assistant, but we just call them Google because we're good friends like that. It shows them which parts of your page to read when someone asks a question, right? Here's a few examples of when to use it. You can pause and just read that. And here's an example as well. Emergency plumbers in Dallas typically respond within 30 minutes for urgent calls like burst pipes or gas leaks, with services available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Excellent example of when to use speakable schema. Now, here's how to implement speakable schema, right? Identify sections for speakable or speakable sections. Add CSS classes. This is probably more relevant to devs or people that are familiar or are in this industry. Add schema markup, which we already know how to do, and you should test it. I also outlined a bit more about what that would look like for each particular step. And then, of course, excuse me for that. Yeah. And then I also provided one specifically for WordPress users, how you'd be able to do this. This is optional, but I'd highly recommend it for important pages. Now, brand mentions, which of course we mentioned earlier, incredibly important for LLMs. Because they look at more than just your website, they scan the entire internet for mentions of your brand. Brand mentions matter in news articles and press releases, industry publications, social media, forums and communities, podcasts and YouTube videos, and other websites and blogs. So to increase brand mentions, you just have to create more shareable content, get press coverage, be active on social media, encourage reviews, guest posts, and participate in communities. So let's talk about some technical optimization. We're almost to the end, I promise, but these things are very important. Technical SEO is a topic that I go in depth on in one of my other guides, which I'll make subsequent videos about. But if you want the guide right now, simply look in the link in my description. If you're still here, great. Let's learn about how we can rank you above your competitors. And if you don't even have a business yourself, but just want to learn how to do this for other businesses, then stick around. Because page speed affects both Google rankings and user experience. Slow pages frustrate visitors and hurt your SEO, frustrates LLMs and Google as well, right? So what actually slows down pages? Large, uncompressed images, too much JavaScript in code, slow web hosting, which is why we use WordPress or Webflow. That's what I recommend. No caching enabled, and there are just too many plugins. So even if you do have WordPress, if you have too many plugins, then it will actually work less in your favor, right? So if you want to, the target that you should be aiming for is that your site loads in under 3 seconds, and on desktop, it loads under 2 seconds. Mobile is under 3, desktop is under 2. You can test this by going to Google Page Speed Insights, enter your URL, and it will show your speed score and what to fix. So Core Web Vitals are 3 specific measurements Google uses to evaluate user experience. The largest contentful paint, which is loading, how long until the main content appears on the screen. The first input delay, which is interactivity, and how long until the page responds to user interaction, and then cumulative layout shift, which is visual stability, how much content moves around while loading. I provided the target that you should have for all of these things so you'll be able to properly interpret the data once you use Google Page Speed Insights, and then exactly how you should be able to improve it. So here are some practical steps for how to improve your page speed. I provided about 6 of them, and by doing these and optimizing for these, you should be able to hit under 3 seconds on your mobile site and then under 2 seconds for your desktop. So Google uses mobile first indexing. So this means that Google looks at your mobile site first when deciding how to rank you, because about 60% of searches happen on mobile devices. Mobile users are also more likely to take action, and Google penalizes sites that aren't mobile friendly. So to optimize, or some requirements for mobile optimization, is you need a responsive design, you need readable text, you need touch-friendly buttons, fast loading, and no horizontal scrolling. You can also check about how to exactly do this throughout the guide. I've provided some very actionable tips. So some best practices for UX is to simplify navigation, make your CTAs very obvious, use short paragraphs, avoid pop-ups completely, and optimize your forms. So accessibility now means people with disabilities can use your site, which is also good for SEO because Google wants to be inclusive for every member of its audience. So some basic accessibility requirements would be all text on images. So this describes the image for people who won't be able to see it. It provides proper heading hierarchy. So of course, using your H1s to about H6, sufficient color contrasts, keyboard navigation, form labels, and video captions. Site architecture now. So good site structure helps both users and search engines find content. Some principles to keep in mind would be to keep it flat. So users should reach any page in 3 clicks or less from the homepage. Use categories. Group related content together. Create clear categories. Logical hierarchy. So homepage, which is top level, main categories, which is second level, and subcategories or individual pages, which are third level. An example of this for a plumbing site, because we're still showing love to our plumbers, is we have the home page, the services, the service areas, the about page, and the contact page. So best practices for navigation would be clear, descriptive menu labels, consistent navigation on every page, breadcrumb navigation, and search function for large sites. So an XML sitemap is a file that lists all your pages. It helps search engines crawl your site completely. So why do sitemaps matter? It ensures search engines find all your pages. It helps new pages get indexed faster. It shows which pages are more important, and it's required for Google Search Console. Here's an example of how to create a sitemap for every single platform that you would be able to use. Right? Again, we recommend WordPress or Webflow. So the robots.txt file, we spoke about this in our prior guide, but the robots.txt file tells search engines which pages to crawl and which to skip, when to use it, and when and what not to block. So just take a quick screenshot of this or just pause the video so you know exactly what you should do versus what you shouldn't do, and then go from there. I've also provided a guide on how you'd be able to create this in the event that you don't already have it. Now, the complete strategy. So many optimization tactics help both Google and LLMs. So focus on these first for maximum impact. If this is at any point something you need to write down, this is probably it. So some universal optimization tactics. You have quality content, clear structure, fast loading, it's mobile friendly, regular updates, authoritative structure or sources, user experience, and strategy. So provided that you follow everything that I've outlined here, which we've already went in depth into throughout this entire guide, you will be able to optimize for both Google and LLMs. Yay. We spoke a bit about where Google and LLMs differ already, but just to reiterate, if you want Google traffic, focus on backlinks and traditional SEO. But if you want LLM citations, you need to focus on brand building and structured content. But the best approach is to do both because they complement each other. I've provided a complete optimization workflow that you can only receive in this document. The total time would be about 3 to 4 hours for a comprehensive page to be made, but once you know how to do it once, you can easily replicate it. So if you want this complete optimization workflow, feel free to pause, but if you'd prefer to have it forever, just feel free to get the link to this document in the description below. I'm just quickly going to go over this. We provide checklists, part 1 and 2 of the mass optimization checklist, some common mistakes that would be able to hurt you throughout this process, including thin content, poor mobile experience, slow page speed, no clear structure, keyword stuffing, missing schemas, and ignoring updates. Here's how to measure success as well. I've also provided benchmarks and so basically goals that you need to achieve. How to measure success with LLM metrics as well, provided here. There's no real search console for LLMs yet, but tracking is manual and tools are currently being developed daily. Hint, hint, I might have something later. So remember to stay updated because both Google and LLMs update regularly. Stay informed to maintain your rankings. In the event that you want to stay informed as to what's happening within the Google and LLM world, feel free to subscribe to this channel as I'll be releasing more videos as in-depth and as clear as these on a weekly basis. So I've also provided an action plan going over where exactly you should start and what this should look like every single day, every single week, month, and year, because this is an ongoing thing. I like to tell people that SEO is a marathon and it's not a sprint. So follow my week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4 plus action plan in order to develop a strategy that works not only for month 1 and 2, but for years to come. Because SEO, it follows a structure of building on top of each other. LLMs are built upon Google, and I suspect that everything that comes after will follow suit. So here's a conclusion. Here's some key takeaways. So remember to optimize for both Google and LLMs. Structure is everything. Quality beats quantity. Mobile and speed are non-negotiable. Consistency wins. Brand authority matters more than ever. And the fundamentals will still and in the future always work. Right? Remember to avoid these huge mistakes, and we've come to the end. So remember to take action. I've provided you everything you need in order to have an incredible on-page SEO strategy. Start with the easiest wins, which I've provided here and throughout the document. Pick one, do it today, and build momentum. Remember, every successful website started with one small optimization, then another, then another, then another. You can do this. I applaud you for getting to the end of this video. Please, if you did enjoy this, like, share, and subscribe. Our new videos come out every single week, and you will become an SEO master provided you follow all of the tips and advice given throughout the videos. If you'd like this document, as I kept saying throughout the video, be sure to get it in the link in the description. And if you want your page to rank #1 on Google, as well as be the first that SEO, or not SEO, but ChatGPT and other LLMs cite when someone asks for your service, follow us or book in a call at amps.ai to see if you would qualify for a service. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day or night. Take care.